Okay, just hypothetically, what if we had something where, like, people had some of their needs unconditionally met, just so they would have, like, guaranteed survival? Mm, yeah, but wouldn't that make, like, it more difficult to hoard wealth? Yeah, it would. And that's like one of the perks. That's a good thing. I don't know. Sounds unrealistic. I already made this video, but like 4 people watched it, so I am allowed to do this. What is my claim? That's not something that's too hard to figure out, in all honesty. My claim is that if we provided people with some of their material needs, then society as a whole wouldn't collapse, as some people would have you believe. And I'm gonna go into some things where things like this have been tried. Providing people with some free resources has been tried. Let me start off with conditional cash transfer, which, if you don't know, is just money given to families who have their children attending school, receiving immunizations. And this conditional cash transfer has been found to increase the employment status of people in a society. Now, this may not be completely fair. In all honesty, if I'm arguing that people should have some of their needs met unconditionally, and my first thing to prove that point is something that only gives people these things under very conditional circumstances, I could see how that could come across a little weird, but it does, or it could, at least in theory, have it to where people would just meet these requirements and take worse jobs. But as I've already shown, this doesn't happen. Now let me move on to a better example, Medicaid, which also doesn't make people lazy, as stated by the National Center for Biotechnology Information. Using a randomized controlled design, we find no effect of Medicaid on employment or earnings. Our 95% confidence interval allows us to reject that Medicaid causes a decline in employment of more than 4.4 percentage points or an increase of more than 1.2 percentage points. Now, one more thing, and that is universal basic income. You see, there was something done by the Nixon administration, ironically. Let me just look at the script. This is a long list. I am allowed to do this. Where he tried giving families in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Iowa, North Carolina, Indiana, Seattle, and Denver what would now be the equivalent of about $11,300 a year. And he found that it did not lead to a significant decrease in the labor in society. The only people who did stop laboring only did so because they were raising a family, or they went back to college for a better education, both of which are still productive. Now let me use that to lead into a much more radical idea, and that is that money causes more harm than it does good. You see, one of the reasons that money exists is to incentivize people to work. People work in exchange for money, in exchange for goods and services. But I've already explained that with some of these goods and services already provided to people, the amount of labor in a society would not go down. Now, let me explain why I believe that money actually does more harm than it does good. And that is something that partly comes from a book written by Dan Ariely, titled Predictably Irrational, where he had test subjects drag circles into a box, just for a little experiment, with varying amounts of pay. One group was paid $5, another group was paid 50 cents, and a third group was paid nothing at all. The group that was paid $5 dragged, on average, 159 circles. The group that was paid 50 cents dragged, on average, 101 circles. And the group that wasn't paid dragged, on average, 168 circles. This shows that people do the best work when they do that work, not because of some pay that they believe that they will receive, but more when they aren't reminded of that pay. Now, something similar happened when AARP asked lawyers if they would be willing to help out some elderly folk for $30 an hour, and they overwhelmingly said no, but when asked if they would do it for free, most of them said yes. Now, this similarly shows people's willingness to work and shows that people are more willing to work when they are not reminded of that monetary aspect. Now, if I haven't sold you on the idea that people would still be willing to work in a society without money, or that people work for reasons beyond monetary reasons, let me look at open source technology, which is something that has been pointed out by ThoughtSlime, but it relies on people's willingness to work for free. And it's not a niche thing either. A lot of companies use it. While it may seem obvious to some, I have no reason to believe that a society of people with all of their material needs met would be a harmful thing. This video, beginning to end, was a mess. So I thank you for enduring it. If you have any questions, or if I made any objectionable mistakes, please inform me of them via comment or Twitter DM. Have a lovely day.